So in this video I'm going to show you how I made this camera slider. So I'm in the process of building a slider for my video camera, and I want to show you guys how I was going about doing this. You've probably never seen one done exactly like this before, but I wanted to have the base of the slider to be something smooth and hard and durable, and I happen to have a piece of melamine coated particle board, and so this is what I'm going to use. I had a scrap piece available, and you can pay no attention to these dados. I had cut some dados a long time ago. I don't even remember why now, but I filled them back in with some plywood, and I've made a bottom support piece, and this is just some 3/4 inch plywood. I glued these pieces together, and it's going to go on the bottom like this, and I'm going to use some pocket holes to screw them to the base of this, and this is to keep the top flat and stable, because my plan is to have this to sit on a tripod, and so I don't want any bending when it's sitting on the middle of a tripod. So I'm drilling pocket holes into this support piece. And then I screw it down to the base of my slider. So to attach one of these tripod mounts, I'm going to use one of these nuts. So I drilled my hole in the exact center, and I'm tapping it in. So I've just realized a mistake I've already made, and that is most tripod attachments don't protrude very far as the screw, and so it's never going to fit inside what I've already done here. It's just not long enough, so I'm going to have to do something about that. So my idea is to countersink this nut down inside the wood. But I've already got my hole drilled, and these spade bits do not work well when the hole is already drilled. So here I'm drilling a guide for my spade bit. And to use this guide, I'm going to center it over my hole and clamp it down. Now my nut fits down inside the countersink hole, and I'm tapping it in. And I'm screwing this base with pocket holes onto the support of my slider. And just to test out what I've done so far, I'm screwing on a tripod head. And this gives you sort of the general idea of what it's going to look like. And here I'm ripping down some wood to be the fence of my slider. And I'm gluing up two pieces to make it tall enough and you'll see why here in a minute. And to take care of this glue squeeze out, I'm going to run it through my table saw. The exact dimensions here do not matter. And I'm cutting off one end to make it square, and I put it on my slider and find the edge of the other end and cut it off. And now I'm going to cut a rabbet. And I'm lining up my fence to cut this rabbet out of this fence, and you'll see why here in a minute. And to do setting up for the other cut, and now I have my rabbet cut out. Now this will slide onto the edge of my slider base, and I'm drilling some countersink holes here because I'm going to screw it to my base. Now I'm going to use glue and screws, and I'm going to glue the edge up against my base, and I clamp a straight edge down and use some shims, some wedges as a clamping device, and I screw it down, and there I have my fence on top of my slider base. And for the other part of my slider, I wanted a curved section. So not only can I do straight slider shots, but I can do some curvature as well. So here I'm using my jigsaw to cut out the curve. And I'm sanding it down. And for the base of my camera, I want that same curve on the base that my camera is going to sit on. And I also drilled out some holes, as you can see, that my quick release head will fit down in flat. And you'll see the concept here of my curve shape following the curve, and I can also use the straight edge. And here I'm using some felt that's used with tape to stick down on the bottom side of the camera head. You could, if you wanted to, just screw your base plate directly to your camera. Or for added functionality, you can add one of these ball heads where you can position your camera in any position you want. An added benefit is you can also use this slider head on any smooth tabletop or countertop surface. So overall, I'm quite pleased with how the general idea of this setup turned out. But in hindsight, if I had it to do over again, I'd probably make this out of 1/2 inch plywood. because this melamine particle board and this 3/4 inch plywood is just a little too heavy for my taste. So some 1/2 inch plywood would be good. Coat it with some wax, would make it smooth, and that's the direction I would take it next time.